Ah, now we get to talk about something that really gets me excited. So, BBIG's agreement of court settlement has been signed, and we now get to go through the terms of the settlement to determine what the future of BBIG is and who's going to be in control of it. So, I figure we go ahead and wrap up our market stream with this one to give everybody a good grasp of what is currently going on and what the outcome of the court case was between Zash Global Media's team and the Vinco Ventures Saboteur team, as I like to call them. So, agreement of settlement, dated 28th of 2022, is made and entered into by and among the following settling parties, each by and through their respective counsel: Vinco Ventures Inc., and I know it's here somewhere, and Zash Global Media and Entertainment and ZVV Media Partners. I'm skipping through all of the individual names. We know who's who. Okay. So, the settling parties have raised and settled various disputes. Vinco filed their action in court against the settling parties, and numerous counterclaims have been issued by the Zash Global Media team. Let's see. I'm trying to skip all the boring stuff, because this is just like all like, oh, blah, blah, we started suing you, then you started suing us, and we're now suing each other. This is like all of the boring stuff. Okay, here we go. Now, therefore, the settling parties hereby stipulate and agree in consideration of the benefits flowing into the settling parties, blah, 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 blah. This is the settlement. I'll try to simplify this. So, the settling parties agree that the management of Vinco after the effective date of this stipulation shall be as follows. A. The executive officers. Ross Miller shall be the sole CEO of Vinco Ventures. Miller and his team, which may include Gabe Hunterton as president, shall run the company subject to the oversight of the company's board of directors, referred to hereafter as the board. As of the effective date, John Colucci, co-CEO, and Jones, CFO, will immediately voluntarily resign as executives and employees of Vinco or any subsidiary joint venture. Colucci and Jones will each provide resignation letters to the company within 24 hours of the effective date as resignation. As of the effective date, Colucci and Jones shall no longer be officers or employees of the company. Colucci and Jones agree to execute any documents reasonably necessary as requested by the company to effectuate their separation as officers or employees of the company, or as an officer, employee, or member of the board of directors of any subsidiary and affiliated entity of Vinco Ventures. John Colucci and Jones shall return all devices, documents, and administrative passcodes, passwords, and other company property to Ross Miller or any other company agent Miller so directs within 48 hours of the effective date. Jones agrees to consult with the company and subject to payment at a rate of $250 an hour as requested by the company on a month-to-month basis. This is purely in order to get his knowledge out of his brain meats directly into the hands of the new management team. This isn't permanent employment. This is because it's necessary to actually get Jones to give up information that they need, and they're probably going to be hounding and grilling him constantly to find out where the hell all that money went to AI pros. At least I hope so. Section B, the directors, as of the effective date, Colucci, Goldstein, DiStasio, will immediately voluntarily resign from their positions on the board. Colucci, Goldstein, and Goldstein, whatever, and DiStasio agree to execute any documents reasonably necessary. 3. Standstill. Colucci, Jones, Goldstein, and DiStasio agree not to seek election to the board. They will not seek to control a position either alone or as part of a group, or seek management, office, employee, or director role at the company or any of its subsidiaries or joint ventures for 1 year from the effective date. So basically, they're fired and they're not allowed to come back. Consideration. Vinco agrees to pay the following amounts in consideration for the outgoing D&O's service to the company. Colucci and Jones will be paid outstanding amounts due as salary plus severance, 3 months' salary for Colucci, 4 months' salary for Jones. The severance amounts in a lump sum on the first pay period after the effective date. Colucci and Jones' outstanding salary due and severance amounts are set forth in Exhibit A attached here too. This is kind of a pittance settlement. Most severance packages last 6 to 12 months of pay, so they got very little. It's basically enough for them to go and find another host to go and feast off of. Wherever these parasites are going, I wish them luck. So the company shall pay for COBRA benefits for Jones for 6 months following the effective date. He's literally the only one who's going to stay for the sheer fact that he actually has financial knowledge of the company, and they need to get that information out of his head, as I mentioned earlier. Within 10 days of the effective date, Colucci, Goldstein, DeStasio will be paid all unpaid pro rata board fees due up to the date of their resignations in the amounts set forth in Exhibit A. Within 10 days of the effective date, Goldstein will also be paid $100,000 as settlement of all matters related to his RSU stock options. So apparently he was holding on to some stock that he's going to be forced into surrendering. He's going to be paid out for those. Within 10 days of the effective date, the fees and expenses previously authorized by the Audit Committee as set forth in Exhibit C will be paid. Litigation and other claims. Okay, so all charges are going to be effectively considered settled. Within 10 days of the effective date, Vinco will stipulate to the dismissal with prejudice of the claims asserted against Noble. So that is court language saying that they are forcefully dismissing their claims against Eric Noble, and they will not be permitted to bring them back up in court again. With prejudice means that the court has ordered that all their accusations have been deemed false, and they will not bring it up again. So they don't get to make these stupid accusations anymore. Within 10 days of the effective date, Vinco will pay all reasonable costs and legal expenses incurred by all settling parties in connection with the litigation and the New York litigation that preceded it, including reimbursement to the defendants and within 1 day of the effective date. So the Vinco team that is now being fired are paying all the legal fees. So that severance doesn't really mean much now. Within 60 days of the effective date, Vinco will stipulate to the dismissal with prejudice of its claims against Farnsworth, King, and Vanderbilt, and Farnsworth, King, and Vanderbilt will stipulate to the dismissal with prejudice of any counterclaims against Vinco and any third-party claims against any of the settling parties. So, just as Vinco is no longer going to be bringing up any claims against the ZVV team, so is the ZVV team agreeing not to bring up any counterclaims against the Vinco saboteurs. While the litigation remains pending after effective date, Vinco, Farnsworth, King, and Vanderbilt represent they will not seek to add any new claims against any of the settling parties or any release parties. In the event Vinco or Farnsworth, King, and Vanderbilt have any other claims than pending in the litigation against any individuals or entities that are not settling parties or release parties, those claims shall not be dismissed. So Zash is going to be continuing their claims that remain outstanding against the Vinco saboteur team, but they agree not to bring up any new ones as a part of this litigation. I am not positive of this, but this language reads to me that it doesn't prevent them from issuing new claims against them in the future as a part of separate litigations that come after them personally. If they were found involved in any kind of fraud, then this paragraph would not stop the Zash team from pressing charges if their fraud was found to be damaging to Vinco Ventures. Okay, other claims and litigation obligations. So first, all whistleblower claims filed before the effective date will be handled at the company level by Miller and Mr. Hunterton. No restrictions or limitations are placed on any settling party making any whistleblower claims or communicating with the company, the SEC, or any other governmental regulatory body regarding whistleblower claims. The continuing DNO and outgoing DNO each agree to appear as witness if requested by Vinco regarding any activities during their employment with the company or their tenure as a member of the board, and shall be entitled to fair and reasonable compensation for their time from the party requesting their testimony as a witness. So if for whatever reason we have to go back to court then these guys will be required to show up again, but will expect to be paid. Interesting. This is what I was interested in learning about. The continuing DNOs and outgoing DNOs each represent and warrant that he or she has not directly or indirectly received any payment or other consideration or been promised that he or she would receive any payment or other consideration from Vinco's vendor, AI Pros, or its principal, George Yang. This is a statement that says that the outgoing saboteurs have promised that they aren't being bribed by AI Pros for their actions that led to the cash of $5 million being sent to them. So this is a court statement that they have not committed any form of money laundering. If this turns out to be false, then basically everything that happened in this court case is back on the table with the expectation that the saboteur team would be held responsible. So if they are lying here, then they are on the hook for not only fraud, but for perjury as well. Continuing DNOs and outgoing DNOs each further represent and warrant that other than Vinco and its subsidiaries, no entity in which they exercise control, including but not limited to HWY Data, Zash, and Magnify U, has directly or indirectly received any payment or other consideration or been promised any payment or other consideration from AI Pros or George Yang. So, same thing being stated here, except they can't hide the money at any of their other subsidiary companies. So if they received money to any of their side companies, then this statement also goes into effect that they basically lied to the courts and they received money from Yang as a result of their actions. So I strongly feel that what happened with the $5 million being sent to AI Pros was wholesale fraud and money laundering. We're going to figure it out, but we now have it in writing that they swear to God we didn't do it. We didn't know. So we're going to find out. All right. The non-compete agreement shows that the outgoing party each agree they will not join or accept any employment with or compensation from any of Vinco's current vendors for a period of 3 years. This does not apply to incidental vendors that have been engaged in transactions with the company totaling less than $100,000 over the 1 year preceding the effective date, such as Google or Amazon Web Services. So they're not allowed to go work for AI Pros or any of the other major vendors, but if they go work for Google, it's fine. Colucci further agrees that neither he nor any company in which he or a family member hold an ownership interest will compete with the company for a period of 3 years. For avoidance of doubt, the non-compete does not preclude Colucci or his company from continuing to work in advertising and marketing consistent with work performed in the past, but neither Colucci nor HWY Data will engage in advertising or marketing through click or Facebook arbitrage. This is basically just putting some limitations on what Colucci's allowed to do for a living. He's allowed to be in advertising business, but he cannot be in direct competition with Vinco Ventures and BBIG in the same way that somebody would, like, say if they were competing with Twitter, open up another advertising campaign and then use Twitter against them. Confidentiality and non-disparagement. The settling parties agree they will not express orally or in writing any disparaging or unfavorable remarks, comments, or criticism of any of the settling parties regarding any actions taken by any of them prior to the effective date. So this is a gag order. They're not allowed to say shit about each other. They're not allowed to complain about each other's activity unless somebody in the future is found to be guilty of fraud or a violation of this very statement. Then all bets are off. DNOs agree further to maintain the confidentiality and material non-public information to the company, so they can't just go and spill all the secrets of the company's plans and, so on and so forth. Provided that it, except if they are obligated to disclose information in response to a lawful subpoena, so if they get called into court. Nothing herein shall restrict any settling party from making any true statements in any legal action, claim, or proceeding commenced, brought, conducted, or heard by or before any federal, state, or local court or other judicial regulatory body. This is just a general legalese statement saying that if they get called into court, they can say whatever they want as long as it's the truth. Okay, so claims of release. This is the really exciting bit. So, Vinco, on behalf of itself and all of its directors, officers, employees, executives, yada yada yada, shall fully, finally, and forever release, relinquish, blah blah blah, all claims, rights, demands, blah 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 blah. Oh my god. Okay. Vinco, on behalf of itself, agrees that it has released all claims against Colucci, DiStasio, Goldstein, Jones, Farnsworth, Vanderbilt, King, Noble, Zash, ZBV, and Magnify You. Jesus. Like, why can't you just say that? This is a 12-line run-on sentence. Lawyers have terrible grammar. That I do declare. All right. So the matter is settled. This is more of the same stuff, just putting them in by name again. Covenant not to sue and indemnification. All of the releases herein apply to any of the claims that were, could have been, or could in future be asserted by the individual releasing parties or other releasing parties in the forum of proceedings. So they are released from any claims for breach of fiduciary duty, unjust enrichment, abuse of control, contribution and indemnification, money damages, disgorgement, or any and all demands, actions, damages, claims, rights, or cause of action or liabilities whatsoever. Okay, so no suits can be originated against Colucci and his team for basically laundering money out of the company. That is part of this settlement. So unless something comes out into the public eye, like, say, a private investigator gets a hold of John Colucci's phone records and finds out that he was planning all of this shit to go in and launder money overseas, this is not going to come up again in court. No jail. That's upsetting. At the very least, they can go after AI Pros, according to this statement. So the settling parties agree that AI Pros Inc. is not a representative agent, attorney, blah, 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 for which the company are a founder, chair, or executive officer. Nothing herein shall prevent the company, BBIG, from asserting claims against AI Pros Inc. regarding prior payments to AI Pros or in relation to the licensing agreements between Vinco Ventures and AI Pros Inc. So I believe that I believe I now understand the logic here. It's my understanding that the Zash team have decided that they will sacrifice revenge against Colucci personally for the chance to go after AI Pros. And I think that what this document is essentially achieving is that these guys have all settled and agreed to appear as witnesses in future court cases, and I think they're going to go after AI Pros. It's pretty much a certainty based on the language that I see here. So they are all going to go after AI Pros, and Colucci is going to have to serve as a witness along as everybody else that was on the Vinco team. And they have agreed, the Vinco and Zash team have all agreed not to sue or put in jail Colucci, Jones, DiStasio, and what was the other guy's name? Goldstein. So they are held, they will not be held accountable for their actions, and in fact they're being paid, which I find frustrating. They're going to have to cover all of the court costs, but nevertheless they're covering it out of pocket basically. So now this is going to be put behind us. I really do wish that we could at least hold one individual responsible, the ringleader. That would have made me feel better. But in this world, in this business, it's not as important as getting the money back. And in fact, this actually could work in favor for Vinco in the end, because everything that they claim that happened as a result of this whole fiasco, they can use it to seek damages against AI Pros and force them to pay Vinco all the money that they stole and plus damages. Basically, they can sue them for full wholesale corporate sabotage. AI Pros, Alakazam, since you're asking in the Discord chat, AI Pros is an AI analysis company that was working for Vinco as a vendor. They had promised that they would be able to integrate their AI platform into Lomotive in order to boost their hits and the clicks. That was the idea of what they were promising. Pros Company is not the same thing. It's not Pros Holding Inc. AI Pros isn't even an American company. It's listed as one. It's not publicly traded. They're actually originally from the Philippines. Their headquarters is based out of Redwood, California. You can find them on the business registrations for Californian businesses. And you'll find that AI Pros is somewhere in Redwood, California in a single room suite, a single room business suite down in downtown Redwood. And as far as I know, the office is empty. It's just a shell. So as far as we know, this isn't even a real company. It doesn't exist. But they still got $5 million from Vinco Ventures because Colucci paid them. So we're going to find out why they paid them. They also paid them during the court proceedings. So they did this to evacuate $5 million just while the court proceedings were going forward. After Colucci had already signed an agreement that he would not spend anything more than $100,000. It's just stupid. And then he just blows $5 million and sends it overseas to a company no one has even heard of before. They did have a prior agreement in their filings. You can find the 8K filings of Vinco announcing that they would be working with AI Pros and that they had entered into a non-binding definitive agreement as a vendor, but nothing came of it. And shortly thereafter, they opened up Cryptide, and that's what got everyone's attention. But AI Pros is a much bigger fish than we think it is. It's probably a shell corporation that's just part of big money laundering. I'm seeing 2 blank signatures, but as I understand it, these are being signed in process. I also noticed that Ross Miller, CEO of Vinco Ventures, appears under ZVV Media Partners LLC. So now he's working with the Zash team directly in an official capacity. Here's Colucci's signature. F***ing tool. What was the AdRiser acquisition? AdRiser is split between Vinco and Zash. They both own they own it jointly, as I understand it. Okay, here's the long list of signatures. Okay, so here's the exact results of everything. So John Colucci is getting back pay of $46,500 plus 3 months severance of $62,500 and a prorated board fee of $26,500. So in total, he's getting $135,000, which honestly is not a lot. It's actually not that much. Compared to what these guys were expecting to be paid and what their contracts showed, these guys did not get a lot. Phil Jones is getting even less. He's just getting severance. He's not getting salary or back pay. He'll probably be paid on contract basis until they basically evacuate all of the knowledge out of his head on everything that financially happened between Vinco and AI Pros. DeStasio is getting some board fees. Goldstein is being forced to settle out of his stock and options in Vinco and prorated board fees. So, okay, Baker Hostler is taking $100,000 for legal services rendered to the audit committee, and Howard & Howard are getting $60,000 for services related to the Howard & Howard investigation. That's interesting. I've not heard of them. I'm going to go look this company up. I want to know more about them. I'm taking a note on them. Status of King and Farnsworth. They are going to be jointly operating on the board of Zash Global Media and the ZVV Partners LLC. So Ross Miller is taking over as the CEO for Vinco Ventures, but Ross Miller is also sitting on the board now for ZVV Partners. He's actually become a partner. Yeah, Colucci. This is a good point. So Brown Noise pointed out in the Discord chat that Colucci can't go to jail, but when he's forced to admit his participation, or at the very least incompetence regarding AI pros, his future corporate career will be ever so slightly limited. Well, anyway, yeah, that pretty much spells it out. Colucci's career is decimated. He will never work in the business world again after this. I hope that this follows him forever. Well, that's it for the legal documentation. I'm going to conclude with a quick review of Vinco's chart. The chart has not changed all that much. You'll notice that I still have several bull flags drawn out as expected based on most recent price action. But we had this nice move to the upside. We consolidated downward. I would say that this was 78 retracement level. And now we've returned to the previous high. And what I expect is for us to form a harmonic pattern when we bounce off of the 61 retracement level. So if we make a quick return to the 91, 92 cent level, then this will complete a harmonic pattern. And I know that like people don't like to see these moves, but in this case, this would be a very bullish harmonic. I believe that this would be a crab pattern, if I'm not mistaken. But if we get a retracement back down to the 92 level, then it will complete. Point is that we have several layers of support, and we are now going to need to retest this one right here. So if we do end up getting a bounce off of the 95 level, then that is extremely bullish. And even if we don't, we still have another leg of support down here, all the way down to 88 cents. So if Vinco or BBIG returns to that level, even as far down as 88 cents or 89 cents, then this will still meet a harmonic pattern, and we would expect to see the price retest the upper edge of this descending channel, which is actually, if I remember drawing this correctly, this is a descending wedge. Yes. Follow the green lines, you'll see this is a descending wedge. We've got a lot of garbage thrown up here on the charts for right now, but I'm pretty excited for Vinco. Now we can actually see what the company can do now that their leadership is back in charge, and that we don't have a bunch of inside saboteurs walking around just making a mess and setting fires everywhere.